welcome to Author Showcase of Oshkosh. In each episode, we'll chat with a writer about their process, their goals, their recent work, whatever else might be on their mind. My name is Tom Cannon. I'm one of the hosts, and I'm an author that lives right here in Oshkosh. And with me today is our other host, Bill Gillard.
Hi, Tom.
Yes. Besides being one of our hosts, Bill is an award-winning teacher of creative writing and literature at the University of Oshkosh, and he has quite a few books out there and more in the works. Today, though, I want to begin with his new book, The Wrong Shadow, Fox River Hauntings. It's a collection of 26 short stories set in the Fox Valley. It's published by 1016 Press. It is described as chills drawn from history and legend mixed with new frights from the mind of Bill Gillard. So welcome to your own show, Bill.
Thanks, Tom. I'm really happy to be here in the interview chair.
Seeing as it is your interview, would you like to begin by talking a little bit about yourself?
Oh, sure. Well, yeah, as Tom said, I teach at UW Oshkosh. I'm really privileged to teach creative writing there. So I'm with young writers all the time, and they're constantly inspiring. And one of the great things about that is I'm always learning from my students. Frequently it's about just like, how we see our stories, and everybody will tell the same story differently. Everybody will write the same kind of poem differently. Everyone will feel things differently. And as a teacher of writing, it's not necessarily my job to say do it my way, but just to think about, well, how would a reader feel about this? What impact would this sentence have? Maybe trying to think about different ways of approaching an idea. And so, as a teacher, it just blends so seamlessly into my own writing that they feed on each other, especially when I have a chance. The summertime when I don't have classes, when I'm doing important work at the university or committees or preparing for the fall, I have some more kind of daily focused writing time that I have. But I've been able to carve out some time during semesters as well. So I guess those are the two very important parts of my life. The teaching and the writing. And so, now you know everything about me.
I think there might be some stuff that you left out. For example, on the bio...
Where were you?
Where were you? So on your bio of your new book, it says, Bill lives in northeast Wisconsin. I think that we admitted to. He tramps around ruined buildings and graveyards in his spare time, as well as teaching at UW Oshkosh. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're getting older and seeing, I'm not from around here, but I have lived here or in the area for 20 years. And even in that amount of time, there's a fair amount of change that goes on. And so, there'll be an old building one day, and then a couple of weeks later, it'll be, be gone. It'll be, taken down, and maybe something new will go up. And, I'm conscious of things like that, and I think, man, I should have gone in there, maybe taken some pictures, maybe looked around on a little bit of a deeper level, and those kind of changes that you can't get back. When it comes to human-built structures, and then when it comes to things, the natural world. If there was a farm, now there are 30 houses there. Those kinds of things. Or there was a forest, and now there are 200 houses there. Whatever it is, the way things change. And so when you get to be, you'll find out when you get to be my age, that's a long ways off. You remember things, and you remember, well, that's kind of not how it used to be. And forget about how things were in our childhood. They were better, but things are gone. Things are gone that aren't coming back. And so, it's a little bit of copy on the back of the book. Tramps around ruined buildings. It's kind of you've had the experience. You walk in through a forest, maybe and you find a foundation of an old house. Or just like the chimney standing, or maybe a kiln or something that you find just out there. Once we're tramping through the woods in New Jersey, we found this old car. It was from the 1940s, this big hunk of steel, and it was just riddled with bullet holes, and it had a tree growing through it. And how did that car get here? What did this, was this a field then? Was it always woods? You know, like, why did somebody abandon their car right here? And, all the stories that went up to that. So I'm attracted to stories, obviously. And so I start thinking in story terms when I, come across things like that.
And the stories we'll talk about, I mean, there's lots of, it's all in the Fox Valley, but there's lots of settings and something for everybody. But there's you certainly have seemed to have taken that story, or the idea of a dilapidated cottage or a house that's just found in the woods, and you've made some ghost stories from that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, these places that have seen life, that have seen stories, that have seen, big things, small things happen, that, that's kind of, I guess, if there's maybe an overall kind of approach, like places get invested with life, the whole thing, like if these walls could talk, right? Like, there's something about the energy of a house. There's a story with the second or third one in this about this marriage it's not happy in any way, and there's some dramatic things that happen, and the house kind of holds those memories of that marriage. Unfortunately for the one who's still there. And so. I guess places get invested.
I agree, because I like to bike ride around downtown Oshkosh, and I would used to, like when Blackhawk Common at UW Oshkosh was being torn down, kind of took pictures of that, and there was, I think in that building too, there was a terrace that goes down, and there was a tree growing out from that. It was, again, kind of being one with the bricks and stuff like that. But I think there's a lot of areas just in Oshkosh. I bike around and you'll see the old buildings, and you can look up under an awning and you'll see a old antique temperature register there. And so, just filled with stories.
Yes.
They're still around Oshkosh. There's lots of renewal in Oshkosh.
Yes. And these old buildings too, some of them you could even see signs in the facade, that that was a bank, it's been a bar for the last 40 years, but you see right along the etched into the stone or into the concrete above the somewhere. Yeah, so you get a lot of history in these places, and that's not even to talk about, places like graveyards that obviously are full of history and full of stories, but the things that you can just learn by being open, the things that you can see if you just do your best just to notice, to slow down, to put away any sort of expectations, and to just be open to the world, just to see what you see.
And I think writing, any type of writing, especially poetry, but that's just a way to train yourself to be looking for the small details that people miss. Yeah.
And poetry, that's a great connection to, as you and I are both write poetry and prose. And there were many years, the way I taught creative writing was I would always start with poetry, and I would always start with students writing poetry to get them to observe anything, just something. And to be able to place some sort of effective representation of it on the page, because once you could start doing that, then you could start to build sentences, and you could start to build paragraphs and characters and story arcs. But you've got to be able to just slow down and be able to be that kind of intermediary between like the thing and the words on the page, and that's what poetry kind of trains us to do.
Yes. And talking about being a professor at UW Oshkosh. You have a story about a professor, an elderly professor that's grading papers. This could be my gotcha question, where I talk about how he's very disillusioned by it. He's struggling to read into those papers. But I think we can forgive you, because I think any English professor is going to have some thoughts about reading papers and after papers, but also even the disillusioned professor comes across essays or whatever the stories were that were he did find those things. Oh, they're an architecture major and they're connecting this to this, and that's great.
Yeah.
So.
All right, two things. I'm very lucky to have the job I have. I'm so very grateful to be doing what I love to do, and to be, with young people all the time.
Yes.
I've been in college for decades now, and I'm having a great time doing it. Very, very lucky. Second thing is, man, when you've got like a stack of papers, and you just want to like stage your own death and just flee, you start looking up like, how much is a one-way ticket to like Rio de Janeiro? Yeah, that's part of like the anxiety of it. But it comes with the territory with teaching. You want your students to work hard and to try to write well. And in order to do that, you've got to be present for them and to be a good audience. And so that was part of where the story came from, that thing. And it's especially acute, like. Let's say it's like right before Christmas break and you're like, man, it's going to be Christmas time once I finish grading this giant stack of papers. And so you can feel it, and then you could feel it what's right in front of you too. And so that was part of the anxiety there, but it also kind of magnified by the character in that story, being much closer to the end of his career than he is at the beginning of his career. And, maybe feeling like the stack of papers, the lifetime stack of papers is dwindling, and it might just be this stack, and thinking about things like mortality as measured in papers written by college freshmen.
So, yes, if you're looking for horror stories, a good impetus for that would be those. So would this be the same as horror stories? Is there a difference between ghost stories and horror stories?
Well, horror has changed many, many times. I would say that none of these participate in what's popular now.
Mm-hmm. That's a good
marketing strategy. I write things that are not in that. We've had phases, and this is me with my literature professor hat on. Phase of Gothic horror, which Castle of Otranto and even Frankenstein. The kind of moody, kind of terrifying, vaguely religiously kind of based, supernatural kind of, that edged into cosmic horror with H.P. Lovecraft, which says that we are just a small piece of reality, the stuff that we can apprehend with our senses, and that there's a vast, vast universe out there that we have, except for a select few, have access to, and those select few learn kind of the truth of the universe and are frequently driven insane. And after that, with Robert Bloch, we've talked about Robert Bloch many times. I have a book coming out on Robert Bloch soon. But Robert Bloch published the novel Psycho in 1959, and Alfred Hitchcock made the film of it. And that changed from supernatural horror to this psychological horror. And the villain then wasn't the wolf man or the creature from the Black Lagoon or some sort of ghost or monster. It was just the guy down the block or the guy, sitting behind you on the bus. It could be anybody. If it's Norman Bates, it could be anybody. Norman Bates, like the most ordinary person, in the world. And so that mid-20th century psychological horror turned into the body horror, if you think like Friday the 13th, or the Halloween, lots of blood, slasher films, all that, even though there was some blood in the Psycho, and in the novel, a decapitation that Hitchcock didn't bring into the film, but we can laugh about it now. But yeah, and so body horror continues to be pretty popular these days with stories of bad things happening to human bodies. And you think of any the popular horror movies around these days, the bodies get well abused. My stories are I think they're more in like the Gothic and the psychological realm. I think that the origins and the ghosts arise from kind of what's between the ears of these of characters who have seen some trauma, who have seen some things that they would have preferred not to see. Yeah, so I think that I think depending on how you define horror, these could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was aiming to to find stories that would resonate. I wanted to write good stories.
Yes,
if that's possible, I wanted to write good stories that had kind of that were a little bit frightening.
Yes, and I think that you've succeeded. You have the ghost stories, and the ghosts and some death and stuff. But at the heart of it, it is stories where you have the characters fully fleshed out, and they're going through something. So I think you have something for everyone. You don't necessarily have to love ghost stories or horror stories. Still enjoy this because they are going through tragedies and just stuff that everybody has gone through.
Sure.
And and then you get the other twist of the ghost in the story.
Yeah, and then the ghost can, it's it's a strange thing, grief, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way we experience, maybe the presence of a loved one who's gone is not unlike the way stories depict ghosts occurring, whether you see them or hear them or feel a presence, things like that. There's a lot, for me, there's a lot of overlap between, kind of the loss of a loved one and the experience and trying to emerge from grief and being haunted, in a more traditional, again, like Gothic horror kind of story of a haunting, of a ghost story. And so, I think a lot of these stories arose from, me working through stuff the way writers
should
do.
Be. Yeah.
Yes, and and I've heard you talk about this to community groups and elsewhere about on broadest sense, kind of therapeutic value of this for the writer, but also for readers and audiences to find that kind of maybe a shared experience, or like this guy's writing about a ghost, but man, it feels like how I'm feeling with my loss, and so so I think you asked if they're horror, well, if life's got some horror in it, and it does, it does,
yes.
then my stories participate in that, and they originate from that. I'm not trying to write, the call's coming from inside the house, I'm not trying to write that kind of stuff.
And oftentimes the ghost is connected directly to the main character's grief and the tragedies of it.
Yeah.
So, where did you find these stories? How did you research them?
Sure. Well, I didn't grow up around here. I've lived here. I've lived in the area for about 20 years, and so part of what I was up to was just kind of researching, kind of how there are where I'm from, kind of the Hudson River, New Jersey, New York, both sides of the hood. There are a lot of stories, weirdnesses and things like that. There's been kind of, there have been Europeans there for like maybe, I don't know, a couple hundred years longer than they've been here. So there are more stories in those traditions that have grown up there. And so coming out here, I wasn't aware of much. Nice people, like, is there anything deeper here? And like, I started researching, like, oh man, there's some stuff out here too. And so just trying to learn and participate in my new place. And so that took a little bit of going to the library and just finding local legends and folklore and things like that. But so there was some research that went into this, but also figuring out kind of just settings for stories I wanted to tell, and set even and one of my favorite things to do while I was writing this was to just go to the library and just get old maps out. Like, well, what did downtown, what did the city of Oshkosh look like in 1880, just from a map, and it's like 4 streets that intersected, and then like farms, and the same thing with like Appleton, but there are mills along the river, and the river had mills down here too. So just imagining these kind of smaller scales and growth, and what would it have been like to live in the town, and what would it have been like to try to go, 5 miles out of the town. I mean, there, these rutted dirt roads, and like what did it mean when the first train line came through, and all of these kind of big moments in the growth of any town, and all the water that's here as well, the rivers and lakes. And so it was a pretty joyful experience doing all that research, uncovering the folklore, and and then taking stories I felt like I was going to tell anyway, and just to try to say, well, what if that was set here? What if that was set in Menasha or someplace like that? How would it change? How would it affect the story? Yeah.
And I think did it help you, do you think, to be a transplant, to maybe have a slightly different take on it, on our area? But to be able to describe it too? That's
an interesting question coming from you in particular, because you've written so eloquently about the city of Oshkosh, which has been your home for a long, long, long time. And even put out books, that draw on other voices, but your own voice as well, talking about your home. What do you think? I think there are strengths and weaknesses. Like, I can't say like, hey, this is this area, because what do I know? I just got here, basically, But people who have had grandparents and great-grandparents in this place have a story to tell as well, and you've got to,
And I think part of it is just because we become attuned to listening, because we want to get it right, so we want to represent an area. We have to pick some place for the setting to be, and it's good for it to be meaningful to us. Thinking of Dr. Larry Watson, where he's a Wisconsin author that's wrote Montana 1948 and other stuff, and he's lived in Wisconsin for a long time, and he had to leave Montana before he started writing about Montana. And so I would think that I would kind of lead towards that as well.
If you left, let's say if you moved to Miami tomorrow, I am positive that you'd be writing about Oshkosh for years.
Yes.
From a very different place. Or if you moved to Paris or something, all your stories would still be about, right? So that was a little hard to break out of, because I wanted to be, part of it is intention. As a writer, and I see it in my students, I definitely see it in myself. We get caught up in the past, we get hung up on these little moments that we just can't let go of. And so all our stories, are about that one day or about that one whatever girlfriend or whatever it is. And so part of this book is me trying to look forward. I came out here for this, fantastic job at the University of Wisconsin. And so this is where my daughters are from. And I want to look ahead. I want to be part of this. I hope I did it. I hope I did some of it justice. I know I don't speak with a local voice, but I tried my best to be responsible to the area and not just drop my own problems onto the area.
And so would you actually read one of your short stories?
Oh, sure.
One that I asked you to read because I think you accurately represent, you kind of nail, they're taking a trip down to down the frozen river, and I think that you really kind of...
Yeah. On 75, the Lake Winnebago snow snake?
Yes.
That one?
Yes.
And as I say that out loud, it's hard to say. I don't know. Yeah. So, good, yeah. So this is titled Lake Winnebago Snow Snake. And, those of you who are from around here, and it's probably nearly everybody watching this right now, will recognize some of the locations here. And it's short, and one of the things I liked about this collection as I was putting it together was that it had room. I have longer stories, 20 pages, whatever, but there are these little interludes between them. They're very short pieces, and this one is, a page and a little longer, and that's it. And so there are these little snippets, and a lot of them came from that research that I did, and others just came from, making something up. So the Lake Winnebago Snow Snake. Thanks for asking me to read it. It seems an evolutionary impossibility, but stories persist all across Lake Winnebago of the strange animal that comes out only at night and only in the dead of winter. Snowmobilers cruising the lake, heading for the beacon at Lighthouse Point in Neenah or toward Waverly Beach instead, are lured into open water by the glowing eyes of the reclusive and predatory snow snake, a reptile so secretive that no one has ever photographed one or indeed found one alive or dead. Some say those things that look like eyes are merely optical illusions, hallucinations brought on by cold or too much to drink. Others say they're ghosts of the winter dead searching in the bitter darkness for a safe passage home. Next time you're out on the frozen lake in daytime, check along the deserted shoreline for unexplainable holes in the snow and ice, especially along the steep woody embankments along High Cliff State Park. That's where the snow snakes live and breed. And if you're unlucky enough to be out on the lake in the dead of a winter's night, don't spend too much time looking out into the open ice. You might see those ghostly red eyes somewhere out there. Do they seem to be calling to you, promising safe passage across the frozen emptiness? Know that it is the Winnebago snow snake beckoning you to the frigid open water, luring you to their feeding grounds along a deep crevasse, preying on your fear and desperation as the endless cold closes in.
Yeah, thank you for reading on that. Because I wanted you to read that one because it's, short enough for the interview section of it. But
you don't want me to read a 30-page story?
Well, I'll wait for the audiobook. But I think if I was going to write a scary story, and if I was going to write about this snow snake, I don't think that I would be able to think about that and put myself as a snowmobiler, me thinking about looking for the Lighthouse Point or the Waverly Beach, and then, so I think that you kind of right there with people that have lived in Fox Valley for their whole life.
Sure. Yeah. And again, that comes from me just, observing. I haven't actually I've been on plenty of frozen lakes, but I haven't been out and done the frozen lake with the ice fishing and the snowmobile and driving your truck out across the lake. I haven't done any of that. It just looks really, really interesting. The closest I came, I had a friend who raced motorcycles on the lake, and just he was so into it and just talking about how he prepared his tires, spent the whole summer getting all the nails into his tires so he could get out there and get some grip on the ice, and the whole culture it just fascinated me to hear his preparation and to hear how excited he was about just racing his motorcycle on the frozen lake. And really, really interesting stuff. And so as I thought about this, I thought about being on the lake, and I thought about it's kind of scary enough in the daytime, but at night as with just the darkness and the cold and the wind and just the distant lights, and just it's gotta feel like you've left the planet Earth. And so that's what I was aiming for, even though I don't have kind of direct experience of that. I can imagine it.
That reminds me, I Googled this for some reason. Is Wisconsin the scariest state? And the answer was yes, it is the most haunted state. So
wow, it's
a good thing you said it here in Wisconsin.
Good. Yeah, so I'm just jumping on the bandwagon, the terror bandwagon. Yeah.
You got to pick the scariest subjects, and Wisconsin is that. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your publishing process and what it was like with Pen 16 Press. Mm-hmm. And so, just how was that process, and how did it go?
Well, this book in particular has a long and winding road. It was probably I don't know, more than 15 years ago, right? I saw this. There was a press, and they were doing ghost stories of Lake Erie and ghost stories of Missouri, and they had a whole catalog of that. And I just wrote to them and said, "Hey, do you want any ghost stories from Wisconsin?" And they said, "Sure, write some, send them down, and we'll take a look." So I spent a spring break, probably 2008 or something. It was a long time ago, writing some stories, getting some things out of my head, and I got into a bit of a groove, and I had 5 or 6 stories, sent them, and the guy said, yeah, let's do this, and so I wrote a few more, and then I never heard from him again. Just gone. And so I had a bunch of these stories, and then I was writing other stuff, wrote novels, a lot of poetry, and things just started to kind of accumulate. It's as if the project I started it was still kind of back there somewhere, and things every once in a while would come out and I'd be like, oh, that goes with this. It's not quite done. And so it took a long time to put this together. It took a long time to figure out what was in and what was out, and to get that structure, as I was saying, long story followed by a little snippet, like the snow snake story. I just made it worse. Snow snake story.
It's a good thing it's not a silly snake snow story.
Yes. But anyway, so many books, and you have experience with this too. Like, it's hard to say when that pile of whatever it is turns into a book somehow. And once you begin to get the vision of like, okay, I can start seeing this coming together. And oh yeah, that's out, but this is in, and in fact, there's a gap here. I need to find something else, write something else that fits here. And so then, I'm very much a supporter of local everything. Lakefly Writers Conference. You and I serve on the board of that, and that's every May in downtown Oshkosh, and we are lucky enough to meet a lot of folks that are, either come and to our book fair, which is free and open to the public that first weekend of May every year in downtown Oshkosh, or just through our dealings with other authors, like, hey, that's a beautiful book, and they say, yeah, I did it with this press. And so Orange Hat 1016 down in Wauwatosa, it's the same press run by Michael Braun. Great folks down there, and just submitted his work. He liked it. He thought it was going to be something that would be appealing out there to the world. And so we worked on it. We worked on it kind of together. It's great, copy editing, proofreading, and then the layout. And the cover's really interesting. I love collaborations with friends and colleagues. And my colleague John Beaver teaches physics at UW Oshkosh, and he also, as a hobby, he builds cameras. And he designs new and interesting ways to develop film. And so this, what's on the cover of this book, is actually a self-portrait of him. It's him taken through one of his cameras that turned into this crazy, like, lightning glowing kind of pattern. And I saw him like, John, man, can I use this as my cover of my ghost story book? And he was like, of course, and that's how a lot of really fun collaborations happen. So I'm very grateful to John Beaver for the cover image. But it was a kind of a long and winding path to get this into print. But I'm really, really happy working with 1016 Press down in Milwaukee, and look forward to helping them, succeed as they help me succeed in a partnership, and so I'm happy.
Yeah, well, I think we really have to support the Wisconsin publishers, and the more opportunities people have, the deeper our culture is going to get. And so if people want to see the cover, they can go to Pen 16 Press, they can go to Amazon, they can go to billgillard.com and get a better picture of what it looks like before they purchase the book.
Yeah, or you could just buy it.
The best way to really see it is to buy it.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, and good. Yeah, so
that was my question. I was wondering, as I was reading, were these individual stories? Were you looking for publishing, which is not a bad thing? You write a short story and you look for a spot to put it. Somebody who wants those, and then get a collection together. But this started out as you wanted a whole collection of these ghost stories.
Sure. Yeah, I can't remember. I think along the way, I may have submitted one or two to different places, and I don't think I was just looking for. I don't think any of them ever got published. They started off with that kind of intention to put together a collection of locally set scary stories, and that it's kind of the way it followed through over the course of years and years, gradually kind of accumulating.
And I think the benefit to that is there's, I'll use the word motif, but that's not the right word. But it's kind of, the settings are kind of interwoven. Some of the stories are set in the past, way past. Some are set in the 1950s. But you return a couple times to, the importance of the railroads there. And I also Googled, in the 1950s, did they still use steam engines? And yes, they did. But my point is, like, you return several times to the Peshtigo fire and to a locomotive, and I think that's kind of interesting to weave that through these collections of stories.
That's something I had never heard of. Like a lot of people, I mean, the Great Chicago Fire happened on the same day as the Peshtigo fire, so it's been overshadowed in history. But that Peshtigo fire, oh my goodness, it's terrifying. Like, oh, there's a fire over there, and you're already dead because it's moving faster than you can run. Driven by these, really, really intense winds and just the environmental conditions right, a lot of dry timber and just the right time of year. And so many people die, and just like whole towns erased from the landscape. That fire, I mean, that it hurt just thinking about it. And so there's so much trauma that went into that, and so there's the few hauntings came out of that in this collection, and it arose from that kind of like the feeling I got just reading about this and hearing about that fire, and like I had an emotional response. And so I as a writer, you try to create characters that kind of can inhabit that kind of similar response, and the aftermath too. There's a fair amount of the aftermath of that, and
And I think everybody knows, the Peshtigo fires and the fact, how huge it was and stuff. But I think it's kind of important to take the time to tell the story, to actually imagine that, what it was like, and the horrors and the tragedies that would come from that.
Sure.
And the families.
And the survivor guilt and all of the layers that can come from, something that was just absolutely devastating, surprising, and just, inescapable for so many people. Yeah, that was a big moment of, me learning, and right then, I was in the library, it was Oshkosh Public Library maybe, and just like, wait, that happened? What is it? Oh no, like that can't be. Like this is me, a newcomer, learning, and I, my fill of the Chicago fire for sure, but never having heard of the Peshtigo fire until I started, researching, and then just reading everything I could, and just, again, feeling it and trying to get it down on paper from a couple of different perspectives. Yeah.
So a question we often ask of our interviewees is, what's the best advice that you've given, or that you've been given, or that you would like to give to other people that are trying to write their stories?
Yeah, you gotta, writing in particular, you gotta write all the time, and it's the Arthur Ashe quote that I'm gonna butcher right now, but like, start where you are, use what you've got, and just, get to it. Don't stop. Don't give up. And recognize that every first draft's going to be terrible. Don't let that discourage you at all. And stick to it. And that said, there's some people who want to like have written. They want to say like, I want my name on a book. I want to write. But the hard work of writing has got to like come from some place in you that you can't turn off. And some good advice, like as a writer, like if you can do anything else, do it, right? Because that might be a thing. You really have to. It's really got to be the thing that drives you,
you have to just want to write. Hopefully,
Yeah.
the readers will come, and the
even
accolades will
if,
come.
yeah, and even if they don't, as we well know,
Yes.
you still go because you really don't have an option. And that's, I talk to my students about that, and they think I'm crazy, and that's fine. If you feel it, if it's you, and if it's the thing that's driving you, you can't ignore that. You can't. I mean, people be saying, you have to, think about your future. Get a good job. Do this and that. But man, if it's there, and if you put it off to the side, it's not going to get better. It's only going to haunt you. And
so that you found that to be true for you. Did you always want to be a writer?
Yeah, I think so, and that it manifests itself in different ways. I've written a lot of music when I was younger, playing loud guitars and things. But always that kind of the creative part, and wanting, as Ezra Pound said, like make something new, something new and different. And I think I grew up in a place where there was always new stuff happening. Every time you turn around, it's like, whoa, I've never heard anything like that or seen something like that before. It's very, very stimulating. It's a fun way to live. And so, I think that's something that drives me, for better or for worse. I can't turn it off.
And so then, you're going to keep, even if you didn't publish again, you'd still keep writing.
Yes, yeah. There's stories that just bounce up. One of the things I do, and it's aided by, I'm really not a fan of smartphones or technology or anything, but they do have their place. And I think the best use I make of my smartphone is that in the morning when my eyes are like still closed and I'm barely awake, I just hit the record button and I do voice memo just describing my dreams. And I've gotten pretty good at remembering my dreams, details, the emotions in them and all of that. And then like once a month, I'll just play some of them, and I have no memory of any of it.
Right.
It's the way we forget dreams. I forget like talking about them because I'm not even awake yet. And so I have all of these like practices that are fairly like, interesting and sometimes joyful and frequently frightening. Like, oh man, that's weird. Is that even my voice? I sound totally different. So those sorts of practices that can be, it's just for me at this point, but it's really kind of, I don't know, kind of helps me make sense of the world, and it kind of helps me latch on to things.
So I think your advice is good that, if you can do something else, do it. If you don't have it there, realize. But also, if you're going to, there's benefits to dabbling in writing,
Sure.
And it's not wasted time if you write it down and you just do it for yourself.
Yes.
I think that's a lesson I had to learn. Even there's people in Oshkosh that they're not really interested in publishing.
Yes.
And I still say, okay,
the
call
publishing
yourself a
part,
writer.
it's almost like a separate thing.
Yes.
The writing part, the practice, the getting the stuff bouncing around in your head onto the page, that's the excitement of it for me. And the publishing stuff is a separate thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So happy. Another full-time job as well. I mean, there's so much effort to that.
Yes.
Most writers would, including me, would just like, let's not do that part, but you have to do that part.
Yeah.
It's just a quick question about what are you working on next? What's coming up? What are you excited about? Speaking of that,
I've got another book coming out. It's an anthology of global science fiction origins that'll be out soon, and I've got more poetry on the way in the coming months. I'm excited. I'm working with. We're in the studios right now of Oshkosh Community Media, which is a very, very fine publicly funded institution that brings you all kinds of stuff, like meetings of the Common Council and meetings of the Sustainability Board and all that kind of stuff. So we're in these studios. I'm doing a radio show that I'm collaborating with local musicians, and I'm bringing my poetry and some stories with this music, and it's going to be on the Oshkosh Community radio station, 101.9 FM, and it's designed to be a late night show. but it's just because of the theme that it's around kind of dreams, and that I was just talking about that land between wakefulness and sleep that we all inhabit, maybe twice a day, on our way to sleep and our way from sleep. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I've been working on a lot is that radio show, and I'm pretty excited about it. And so I hope when it gets going, I get some listeners. But it doesn't matter.
No.
Because the thing is, I'm getting it down. I'm really excited about it.
And yep, hopefully you do what you're passionate about,
Yes.
and listeners and readers will come from that.
We're very, very lucky in Oshkosh to have that community support, whether it's through the Oshkosh Public Library, which is a tremendous institution with wonderful people, or Oshkosh Community Media. We have such fantastic resources that we've all gotten together and said, yeah, this is important. And very happy.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today at Author Showcase. You can find Bill, we'll give Bill the last word, but you can find this book on Amazon, Pen 16 Press, BillGillard.com. If you're so inclined, you could go to bookshop.org if you wanted to support an indie book seller, indie bookstore like Carmel Crisp here in Oshkosh. You just designate that's who you want to, the proceeds to go to. So I'm Tom Cannon. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me today, Tom. I really appreciate it.
Glad you could find your way to the studio.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Author Showcase of Oshkosh with your hosts, Dixie Joe Jarko, Bill Gillard, and Thomas Cannon. We'd love to hear from you, whether you're interested in being a guest on the show, have a question, or want to share your thoughts. Please reach out to us on social media or via email at OshkoshAuthorShowcase@gmail.com.